Hello! Tomorrow we're going to be picking up a new cat and we'll introduce her later in the video. She'll need to be kept separate from our current cat Mickey though for up to a week, possibly longer, before we can introduce them. So I need some extra cat scratching boards. In my experience with cats, these cardboard ones seem to be the most popular. So in this video I thought I'd have a go at making a few so that we can have some dotted all around the house. I want to make some that are going to be better looking than the ones that you can buy, as these hideously vibrant blue boxes look out of place wherever we put them. And I also want the ones that I make to be heavier too, as these ones slide around all over the place when they're being used. I've got some double wall cardboard boxes from recent deliveries that I can use. I wondered if I'd be able to cut these down in strips at the bandsaw, so I figured it'd be worth a try. That way I could just set the fence and cut loads of strips to a consistent size, and it worked really well. If you don't have a bandsaw though, it'd be easy enough to make a simple jig like this one from a few scraps of wood, which you can then push up to a straight edge on the cardboard and then use it as a straight edge to guide your cuts with a sharp knife instead. Same end result, just a little bit more time consuming. Anyway, I'm cutting this cardboard into 50mm strips, and that's going to be the thickness of my board, and I'm making all of the cuts across the grain of the cardboard. That way you get all of the wavy corrugated bits. And I'm using PVA glue to stick all the strips together. You'll see I'm not spreading out the glue or anything, just trickling some onto each face and then pushing them together, but it's important to do this on a flat surface so that the boards come out nice and flat. And then I can wrap some masking tape around nice and tight, and I wait for the glue to dry. I'm not really too concerned with what size the finished boards end up being. I mean, it'd be great if I could make them all the same size, but sometimes I just like to let the materials that are available dictate what size things end up being. I'm going to use the bandsaw again to square off the ends. I've got some old salvaged pine shelf boards up here which are incredibly dusty as they've been here for a while. But this is really nice slow grown stuff with tight growth rings, so it'll look nice once cleaned up. I'm going to rip each piece in half at the table saw and true up the edges. And then a couple of passes through the thicknesser to clean up the faces. And then I can cut the boards to length to form boxes that will fit around the scratching boards. Next I'm going to cut some completely unnecessary joinery at the table saw. I'm going to be using my grooving blade, I'll leave a link to this down below, to cut some nice finger joints. These boxes don't really need to be strong, but I really like the way that finger joints look, so it'll be a nice feature on what would otherwise be quite a boring looking box. I've got a video all about how I made this finger joint jig, and I'll link to it below in the description. I sanded what is going to be the inside faces of the boxes while they're easy to get to, and then I can assemble everything. And I'm using clamps just to squeeze the joints together nice and tight, but I'm actually not going to leave the clamps on because there's really no need. The glue is going to set up fine without them, and it's easier to square up the box without the clamps in the way. And then I can just leave them to dry. Once dry, you'll see my fingers are protruding a little, so I'm using the belt sander to bring them down flush. And then I true up the top and bottom edges at the table saw. I'm going to cut a rebate using this bearing guided bit in the router to make space for a bottom panel. And for the top edges, a small roundover will ease over the edges to make them comfortable for cat elbows. Do cats have elbows? Or are they knees? Hang on a minute. Oh, that's interesting. Stifle joints it is then. This project is going to be a good way to use up some small bits of plywood and MDF that I've had laying around the workshop for a while. I can just cut them to size and then round over the corners, ready to be glued in. Then a final bit of sanding to the outside of the box. For finish, I'll use my own handmade wax, which dries completely clear so it won't yellow the pine. It does look yellow when it goes on, but that's just because it's wet at the moment. This, along with my other finishes, are available on my online store, so I'll leave a link to it in the description box below if you're interested. Once it's dry, I can just buff and polish it up to a nice sheen. And I love how that looks. So I made 4 of these in total, 3 for our bungalow and 1 for my mum and dad's cat Gypsy, who you might have seen in a previous video of mine. So let's see if Mickey approves. Well, he definitely seems to like it, although it is still sliding around the floor. So I'm going to order some rubber feet for the bottom, and hopefully that will solve the problem. So we went and picked up our new cat. She's another rescue cat and was found in a meadow, so they called her Meadow. But we've actually renamed her, so this is Hazel. We think she's about 18 months old, so she's much younger than Mickey, who we think is about 6 years old. And she was only recently spayed, so that's why she's got a little red coat on. We set up a bed in my office which she could use as her base camp, as we need to keep Mickey and Hazel separate for a while until they get used to each other's scent, and then we can gradually introduce them to each other over several days at feeding time, and hopefully they will learn to love each other. Hazel is very affectionate and a real lap cat, but at the moment she's still quite nervous. After about a week though, she started exploring other rooms in the house, and she didn't seem to want to scratch the board though. Let's try that with some catnip. Nope, she's still not interested. A couple of days later though, she really got into it. These boards were quick and easy to make. I think they're much nicer to look at than the ones that you can buy, and it beats spending like £15 to £20 for what is essentially a cardboard box with some cardboard in it. Thanks for watching.